You're watching HuffPost Live, and I'm Nancy Red. I have a question for you. Where are all the women coaches? There are 0 female coaches, assistant coaches, or even assistants to assistant coaches in Major League Baseball, the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, and the list goes on and on. Joining me to discuss these dearths, there are in our Google Hangout Megan Greenwell, who's a senior editor at ESPN Magazine, Justine Siegal, the founder for Baseball and All and the first woman to throw batting practice in Major League Baseball, Janet Fink, an associate professor in the sports management department at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, and Debbie Vance, a former football coach at Herbert H. Lehman High School in the Bronx. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. Well, I got to start with you, Megan, because you wrote a piece in the Wall Street Journal that I want to, the Washington Post. How has Title IX affected female coaching?
One of the problematic side effects that I think nobody anticipated was Title IX really legitimized women's sports and thus legitimized women's coaching jobs. And while that sounds like a great thing, that meant that more men were then applying for those jobs, and that meant that more men were then getting those jobs. So what ended up happening is since Title IX was passed in the 1970s, the percentage of women's teams that are coached by women has just gone steadily downward. So now it's actually less than 50% of women's college teams that are coached by men. And of course, it's close to 0% of men's college teams and certainly men's pro teams that are coached by women. You know, women don't see opportunities for themselves. I was an athlete throughout high school and college. I was a nationally ranked fencer. I played soccer before that, and I never had a female coach. And so I never had the chance to look at a role model and say, hey, look, I could do that too someday.
Justine, you have quite the resume. You were the first woman to throw batting practice in the MLB. You were the first woman to coach first base in pro baseball, which isn't the Major League Baseball, but it is very important. What was your experience like?
Well, I set out the goal when I was 16 to become a college baseball coach. And so to do that, you know, I went ahead and pursued a PhD in sports psychology, and I spent 3 years as an assistant college coach. And then I got the opportunity to coach the Brockton Rocks, which was an independent men's pro team, and then since BP. And it was extremely challenging at times, and at other times it was, you know, the most normal thing I could do, because there I was coaching baseball just like I would do with men or women.
And did it seem to make a difference? Do you think that you were treated any differently?
I was definitely treated differently, and a lot of that is leadership driven. So, for example, our head coach at Springfield College, where I was the assistant coach, you know, he was fully supportive at all times, so I didn't have to deal with too much mess, and the guys were always very considerate. And they took a little pride, actually, in having a female coach, the only female college coach in the country. And then at the pro level, I didn't get the same backing from the leadership, so there was more opportunity to sort of complain a little bit. But then, even then, there were players who said, you know, can you go throw me BP? Can you hit me some fungos? What can I do here?
Most people don't even consider women being a coach for a men's team. It's like unimaginable to them. The fact that the patriarchal nature of sport is so embedded and just so historical, it's not even an issue for many women or men. They say, well, gosh, why would women coach men, right? Rather than why aren't women not coaching men?
Debbie, were you not the first woman in New York State to actually coach a boys football team?
I believe so. I started my career in 1989. The head varsity football coach came to me. I had just started teaching at the school and asked if I would be the assistant JV football coach. And I told him, you know, I've watched football, grew up watching it, played it with the boys in the neighborhood, but I never played. He says, you're a coach. You can coach anything. Wow. And that was 1989, and I coached for 18 years. I was lucky. I never had that, she's a female, she can't do this, from the coaching staff. They were, once again, they were very supportive. They taught me the game. And teaching young boys the game at the JV level was always when our varsity team went to the city championship 3 times while I was a JV coach, and it was nice to look on the field and say they came through my program at the lower level. But we still had, after my team would win and shaking hands, opposing coaches, nice game, coach, but I hate losing to a woman. And my thing was, you didn't lose to a woman. My boys beat your boys. And I think that's where a lot of people don't understand that no matter what the sport is or what gender you're coaching or who the coach is, it's still the same sport. Whether it be basketball, whether it be football, it's still the same gender playing the same gender.